That I myself am very interested in what's going to happen here. It's a company that's completely from the outside of the mainstream market, Ressence. We have Mr. Miłos, whom I met in Geneva during the trade show. Oh, sorry, in Basel, where there was a very interesting independent part. That's why I was so enchanted by Ressence. I've chosen to invite them. They've accepted. They're here with us right now. So I hope that just like myself, I'm absolutely enchanted. I hope that you're going to enjoy it as well, and you're going to fall under their spell.
Welcome to the presentation of Ressence watches. My name is Benoît Mintiens. I'm the founder of Ressence watches. I'm also an industrial designer before I did Ressence. And so this presentation will be about the roots behind the brand and mainly the innovations we put in our watches. I founded the company in 2010. So we are in our 7th year. Maybe I have to walk away from the mill. So we started in 2010. Ressence is what we called an independent brand. When you go to big shows for watches, you have, like Basel World, you have the Palace, and there you have colleagues of us that do very different watches than probably what you will see today and most watches that you see in the stores. We create them, so I design them completely. We also produce them in Switzerland. And all our watches are based on a common concept. The concept or the patent we have is based on a set of discs, so there are no hands on our watches. Even if time is represented the same way as you are used to read time with hands, there are no hands. So here you can clearly see that it's a set of discs that turn around each other. So I invite you, did we start on time? Check your watch. So you all saw that we started on time. Thank you, Darius. But what I want to tell you is that when you looked at your watch, you didn't really read it. You just flash an image in a fraction of a second, and what you're looking for is the longest hand and the angle. And you must have seen that it was just before down. And in fact, our brain is trained to read time like that. And so on the Ressence watch, it's the minute hand that is the leading hand. I'll show you, if I can. So this is our homepage, and this is how our watches move. They don't move that fast, of course, because this is the minutes hand. So it's 5 past the hour. And now it's 10 past the hour. This is the hours. So it's 5 o'clock, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. This is a second, but it's a type 3. This has another, it's 60-second hand, but it is a 360 seconds, so that's why it goes slowly. This is the oil temperature. I will explain you what it is. And here you have the date. So this is how our watches move and express time. So the origin of the dial that you saw comes from reading ergonomics. It seems a bit far away from watchmaking, but let's not forget, I'm an industrial designer, and so I look at the watches in a completely different way as a watchmaker would do it. And so you see that all the information is in one surface, no layers. And the reason for that is that we have two eyes. I hope everyone has two eyes. And the problem with having two eyes is that you have two different images. Every eye sees something that is slightly different from the other one. And your brain transforms it into one image. So that's the job of your brain. All the watches you know have hands, or mechanical watches, because we do mechanical watches, and hands are in layers on top of each other. You have, on top you have the seconds, you have the minutes, then you have the hours, then you have the dial, then you have the date, maybe you have small seconds, so these are all different layers on top of each other. That is why we brought everything in one layer. It's a lot more easy to read time in one layer, or to read something. Imagine a book where the letters would float above the paper. It would really be hard to read the book. And so the whole concept of Ressence dial is based on that ergonomical principle. You flash an image, and for your brain it's easier to process a flat image than a three-dimensional image. As an industrial designer, this is a sentence to check if you're still awake. The most important aspect of a product is its function. And sometimes in watchmaking, people forget about that a watch is to give time. And so if we are very strict in the way we approach that philosophy, and that's the one we follow, a little bit like form follows functions, we come up in something like the expression of time is actually the most important aspect of a watch. In fact, a watch has no sense if it doesn't give time in a proper way, as a car has no sense if it doesn't drive properly or safely, and that means for all the products. And so from that basic philosophy, we started developing the dial. So the expression of time, and try to do that, enhance it the best we can, to have the purest possible expression of time. And how can we achieve that? Not by making very complex watches with a lot of layers and a lot of details and a lot of finishes. No, we do just the opposite. We make it very graphical, very clear to read, very efficient. So there's no technical stuff. I have here a very philosophical sentence I will not develop today, because everything is based on evolution, even products. So we come up in a concept that we call dematerialization. The watch becomes time expression. It's not about components. Our watches, or the most evolved ones, they have that you cannot, it's just a kind of galet or a river stone shape with information on it. This information changes, moves mechanically, but you have no sense of components, you have no sense of things you can see. Everything is hidden. It has no sense to see the gears in your watch when you want to know the time. That's our philosophy, of course. Many other brands think differently, so it's just our religion. But what looks simple is very often very complex. It's easy to make it look complex, but it's a lot more complicated to make it look simple. And I'll show you why. A small timeline, as we are a young company. We started so in 2010. 2011 we had our first 50 watches on the market. In 2012 we did another 150. We launched the Type 3. That was in 2013. 2014 we launched Type 1, and in last year, but really in December, end of December, we launched Type 5. Maybe some have heard about the diver that we did. Ressence is a company today, so we have our headquarters in Antwerp. I'm Belgian. We produce them in Switzerland, in Fleurier. That's the town or the village, I can call it, where they have, I think Chopard is there. I think Parmigiani also. We have more points of sales in the world, but 30 are really active points of sales, and we produce about 300 pieces a year. We have enjoyed some recognition since we started. So in 2013, we won the Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève with the Type 3. We had the Revelation Prize there. So they invented the prize for Ressence because there was no category for it. Watch Stars is a prize we won in 2015, and it's organized by the German press. We will participate for the first year to the SIHH, so it's the Geneva show. It's not Basel, it's a fair in Geneva, mainly with Richemont brands. And this is a scoop. We have been elected 2 days ago by the Fondation de Haute Horlogerie as being member of the 64 brands in the world as being Haute Horlogerie, considered as Haute Horlogerie. So we're very, very proud about that. Ressence is based on 2 pillars, 2 important pillars, like 2 legs. We have an industrial designer leg, that's me, and we have innovative fine watchmaking. And when I say innovative, it's real innovation. It's something it's never done in watchmaking. All the innovations you will see, there's no other watch that has it. The industrial design part, so the glasses we look through, as I explained you, as an industrial designer, you look to a product and a watch, because it's still a product, from a very different point of view. I explain you the philosophy. The user is central. You are central, not the movement. That's the main thing you have to remember. Most brands will talk about the movement, and some did already. We don't talk about the movement. We talk about you. You are central. Form follows innovation. These are just a roundup. I'll go in detail with that later. Some innovations we have. It's the way we represent time. It's the fact that watches are oil-filled, that have no crown, that they have magnetic transmission, that they have a bellows system to compensate for the oil variations in volume, and that we have developed an hydraulic shock absorber in our watches. Let's start with the ROX. ROX stands for Ressence Orbital Convex System. It's the in-house complication we developed to animate our watches. So the animation you saw in the beginning is generated by this system. There is no movement on this picture. The movement is there. It's not on the picture. So this is only the system that allows the animation. All in oil. This is the oil. So everything is in the oil. 212 components. So the watch you saw moving nicely, while all these components were running in oil. So when I take again the dematerialization concept, the fact our watches are made to express time, it's the top of the iceberg. The whole mechanism you saw, the exploded view, is hidden. We don't show it. You need to know it, because if you want to buy a watch like that, you have to know why it's expensive. But it's only for you. You don't have to show off about it. You know it. We have three products actually. We have Type 1 that is is a 212 component watch, and the ROX, so the animation part, is about a little bit more than 100 components. It has 40 jewels and 27 gears. Type 3 is the most complex one. That's the one you saw on the video. It has 376 components in total, from which 215 are in the oil. and it has 47 joules. 47 joules, a ball bearing is considered as 1 joule, even if there are 13 or 12 joule balls, and there are many ball bearings in the watch. Type 5 is somewhere in between. All our watches have no crown, and so we set the watch with the back. So by turning the back case, left or right, you can unset it and widen it at the same time. Why is that? Because it's an automatic watch. With an automatic watch, or when you put it back on, it's still on time, means it's still running, so you don't have to wind it because you put it on, you wear, and it starts winding again. So you only need to wind it when it's stopped, and when it's stopped, it's not on time. So you always have to do both actions with an automatic watch. So we combine both in one. So by setting it, you wind it at the same time. And of course, no crown means left and right. So when I say the watches are oil-filled, of course, it's type 1 is not oil-filled. It's type 3 and type 5 that are oil-filled. This is a section of a type 3. So the bottom here is air. So the movement is a mechanical movement. A mechanical movement can only run in air. It's the whole dial. All these components that you saw, the explosion, they are in the oil, the orange section. And you see it's sealed off. There's no opening. It's completely closed. So the clever ones between you will say, how do you get the movement information to the dial? Why do we fill our watches with oil? Many people say, it's very complicated. Why do you do it? Well, because it's, again, a way to enhance the philosophy. By putting the oil, you take away all the mechanical parts. You don't see the components anymore. It becomes a kind of a layer on the outside that expresses time. So, and the oil, in fact, what does it do? It takes away the refraction of the light between the dial and the glass, and the sapphire glass. But it also has a lot of mechanical advantages, because all these components are constantly lubricated. It's like a gearbox in a car. If you don't put oil in the gearbox of your car, it will be broken after 100 kilometers. But I guess nobody here has ever had a problem with this gearbox in his car, and it's because it's oil-filled. So it's, and third is very important, it gives a better precision to the watch. And many people think, why? Because you have more friction because of the oil, you have resistance. Well, no, a watch moves very slowly. It's as if I put you on this chair and I try to turn you around on your chair. It's going to be very hard for me, even if you're not heavy. But if I put you in a pool, I can turn you around with one finger. And this is the same principle for all these components that you saw in the exploded view. They are all floating. They are a lot lighter for the movement to pull. It's like, and that means that the energy needed to make it run is a lot lower. And thanks to that, you have a better power reserve and better chronometry of the watch. And for the Type 5 that we launched is our diver watch. It's the only diver watch readable underwater, mechanical. And everybody will say, no, that's not true. All diver watches are readable underwater. Well, if you really face them really straight forward, then you can maybe read them. But from the moment you put them under an angle, this is a Type 1 that is air-filled, you get a mirror. You will probably all have noticed that. But with oil in it, you can read it from every angle. Always. Secondly, the oil will also compensate for the pressure of the water. So you can make it less bulky as a watch, because the oil will compensate for the pressure. But oil is very nice, all the advantages, but you have to manage it. And that's why we have a bellow system inside our watch. I hope your translator knows that word in Polish. In German, it's Balgen. A bellow is like an accordion. You all know an accordion, I guess. So it's the principle of an accordion, but very small. It's a 3mm accordion. We have developed it to make them 7 in a watch. And what do? When the oil is warm, like every liquid, it will expand. When a fluid is cold, it contracts. If we don't compensate for that, if we don't do anything about that in our watches, you would have bubbles in the watch. And all the experiences that has been done, there have been 2 watches with liquid inside until now. They were quartz, they were not mechanical. And these watches had bubbles. And it's because they did not develop this system. So when the oil expands, the bellow is pushed down. When the oil cools down, the bellow will compensate for the volume difference. And that will allow the watch to always be at a positive pressure inside. So the pressure in the watch is always a little higher than the atmospheric pressure. And thanks to that, you will have no bubble in your watch. And the watches equipped with oil are equipped with a temperature gauge in it. So there's an indication of how far you are in the compression or the dilatation of that bellow. And it looks like this. So how do we bring the minute information? Because we only send from the mechanical movement, we only use the minutes. We don't use any other function. So the movements we use are basic movements that we buy from the market. They are modified for us because we have no hours on them, we have no seconds on them, we have no date on them, and we have no crown on them. So these movements are purely a kind of engine that runs the minutes. And so from the dry section to the oil section are sent in the minutes. And we don't do that physically because it would mean there is a hole somewhere in the watch, and it's impossible to guarantee that this hole will never leak, that the oil will never come out. So we do it magnetically. So there are magnets inside our watches, our mechanical watches. And for some that know about mechanical watches, they will say, magnets in a mechanical watch, that's a problem. We also found a solution for that. But the idea is that you have a disc. This disc, these are the magnets. They are 1mm diameter, so this is 1mm. These bananas are conductors, magnetic conductors, and this disc is on the dry side and this one is in the oil. They are inside each other, but there is a wall in between, and so the magnetic field goes from here to there, back here, and like this. So they create a closed loop. A closed loop means that first, the connection is stronger because the loop is closed, and secondly, you have less spread of magnetic fields because they are concentrated through these conductors. It's easier for a magnetic field to go through this conductor than to go through air. So it will concentrate around this loop. There's still some spread, and we protect the movement with a cage. So the movement is inside a cage. It's not a Faraday cage because it's for magnetic fields. Faraday cage is designed for electromagnetic fields, but it's comparable in the way it works. And it's made out of a special alloy. And then the last innovation I want to talk about is the hydraulic shock absorber. When we developed and decided to launch a diver watch, you have to, for a real diver watch, you have to comply to an ISO norm. That's called 6425. And that ISO norm is quite heavy. And one of the things they ask is that a watch should resist a shock of 5,000 J. Means 5,000 times the weight of the watch. It's impossible to hold the dial from the movement with a magnetic connection with a shock of 5,000 G. It's as if you would weight 5,000 times your weight. That's what the watch has to endure and not change time and just run. So we had to invent a solution to avoid the magnets to disconnect. So we came up with an hydraulic shock absorber. So this disc, you can recognize it. It looks like the second hand from the top. Very simple. But on the bottom, it's kind of a turbine. It's the principle of a turbine. So when the disc rotates, the oil is sucked in by gravity or a centrifugal force. It's pushed to the outside and sent through this small opening between the disc and the index disc. And this opening has been calibrated so that when the watch runs normally, it has no impact on the watch. The flow has no resistance. But from the moment you have a shock, the dial starts to disconnect. So it starts to run really fast. This disc has an accelerated movement compared to the dial. Starts running really fast, starts pumping really hard, but it can't go that fast because the opening is too small, and so it will break the movement from disconnecting. If you want more details, I can explain you more in detail. I have still 10 minutes. Huh? In the collection, we have 3 products. We have the Type 1. The price is in Swiss francs, ex VAT. We have the Type 3, most complex product, and the Type 5. The Type 1 is a bit cheaper because it has no oil, so there's a lot of technology we don't need to put in the watch. The Type 3 is the most complex one because it has the most functions and the most components. So Type 3 has about 2 times more components than the Type 1. It's also 2 times more time to assemble, and so the price of our watches are not marketing driven, like there is a gap in the market somewhere. No, it's just the cost, that's the price. The cost of assembly and the cost of production. The Type 1, we have 8 colors. Mechanically, they're all the same. The Type 1 has a titanium case, and the dial is in Maishor. Maishor is an alloy based on, they call it German silver also. So just a few colors, but mechanically these watches are the same. We have one that is in rose gold also, rose gold case. Type 3 and Type 5. Type 3 comes in 3 dial colors, but 4 finishes. You have a Type 3B that has a black dial, but with a polished titanium case. Type 3 and Type 5 are full titanium watches. Everything is in titanium. Even the axles are in titanium. We have 2 black ones, a blue dial we launched this year, and a just titanium color, sandblasted grade 5 titanium. And then the Type 5, we have B, so it's a black dial but with a titanium combination of polish and glass pearled. And we have a full black DLC coated titanium finish. So the Type 1 has the functions of this watch are minutes, hours, weekday. These are weekend days. I guess for you Saturday and Sunday is a weekend. So this would be Saturday, this would be Sunday, but that's not for everybody on this planet. And then for the French, these are the working days. And then up is the seconds. On the Type 1, the seconds are real seconds, so mean that it's 60 seconds. And here's a few components of the watch. So we design everything, of course, except the movement. So this is something we buy in, modified. You cannot use it in another watch, but it's a base caliber. So the Type 3. So here you see quite well the effect of the oil in the watch. So it's really like that. I have one with me, if you don't believe it. It's no Photoshop here. And so you see that the graphs are really on the outside. So it's for us the watch that represents the best our philosophy being pure expression of time. The watch is time expression. There's nothing else, only 2 lugs just to hold the strap, because you still have to attach it to your wrist. So this watch has won the Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève in 2013. Minutes, hours, that's the same. Also weekday, it's the same principle. Oil temperature, seconds, but they run in 360 seconds, so it takes 6 minutes to go around. And it has a bit the same function as this hydraulic shock absorber, but the Type 3 is not equipped with a hydraulic shock absorber because it's not a diver watch. But it still has a stabilizing function for the dial, because the magnets, you can understand that as there is nothing that touches, there's air in between them, they can still move a little bit. And to avoid the dial to wobble a bit, we have integrated this, so it's a stabilizing function. And then the date indication here. So you see there's a lot of components to assemble. So for example, these are ball bearings. No. But yeah, this is the whole system for the bellow system. Double sapphire glass, anti-reflective coating, and all the components you see are titanium components. And so the Type 5, this is the last one we launched this year, with a very organic shape. We inspired the shape of the watch from nature. Why is that? Check my watch, how much time I have, 2 minutes. Why is that? Because we believe very strongly in the fact that your watch is your avatar. I don't know if everybody knows that word. It's a kind of representation of you. When you bought your watch, you thought it's important that this watch fits my person, my personality. That when other people see my watch, like other people see my car, it says something about my values. So your watch is something that is close to you. And so the philosophy behind our watches is that they should fit you. And from an industrial designer point of view, we took it literally. We said, how can a product fit you? It should at least talk your language of forms. And I'll take the example of other watches that you probably wear also. They're very geometrical. They're cylindrical, straight shapes. Everything is flat and straight. This is a shape that does not exist in nature. Flatness is something we invented as humans. And why did we invent it as humans? It's because our machines can only make flat things. It's a lot more simple to make flat things. All the watches you know, also those ones, but all the ones you know, they're all two-dimensional with layers, with flat layers. Everything is straight. All the axles are straight, parallel to each other. On the Ressence dial, everything's curved. There's nothing flat. All these axles, it looks curved, but it's really curved. It's a 125 millimeter radius. All the axles are not straight like this, but they're under an angle. Because you have to be perpendicular to the circle. It's a lot more complex to produce than flat dials, than flat bridges. And why do we do that? Again, we do that because we are not flat. I hope you are not flat, guys. Because if we were flat, we would be made by machines. So to have a watch that fits you, at least it has to speak the language of your body. Look at your glasses. No one has square glasses or perfectly round glasses. Why is that? Because you look stupid with it. So everything's organic. Your glasses have an organic shape. Even if they have a square or rectangular shape, they will never be straight rectangular. They will be curved because your face is also curved. So this logic, we applied it to a watch. That's why our watches are organic in shape, because they fit you better. They are closer to you. They are your companion. I'm done. So thank you very much. If anyone has questions, please shoot.
what should I say? That's why I love to have the uncommon people. Definitely you are on our guest. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very impressive. Questions?
Yes.
Dobrze, okej, dziękuję. Tam jest wskaźnik temperatury oleju. Tak jest wskaźnik temperatury oleju.
Indicator. Is there any system of cooling the oil?
There is some solutions
Tam była temperatura chyba, nie?
oil if the temperature is too high. Probably not.
No. So the question, yeah, you all understood it, of course. There is no possibility to cool the oil, but the watch is in contact with your skin. Your body will never accept a big temperature change on your skin. Your skin is always 27 degrees. Even if it goes, I don't know, in hypothermia, so that's the moment where you start to die. I think your skin is at 24. You know how much? 36. Yeah, 36, that's when you are, but that's only inside. But the outside of your skin, your wrist, is usually at 27. And it's a very small difference. It's maybe 29 to 24 or something. Above you die, under you die. So your skin your body is very well regulated. So the watch is in contact with your body, and so it will influence the temperature of the watch. So that's maybe an indirect answer to your question. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Jeszcze jedno, jeżeli można, tylko pytanie.
So the question is, why do we have a little hand as a logo? The first one, of course, is that I am from Antwerpen. Antwerpen is a city in Belgium, in the north of Belgium. And there's a legend. And the legend is that there was a big giant. And we have a river, like you have here in Warsaw. And there was a giant, and he was standing with 1 foot on every side of the river. And all the boats that came under him, they had to pay. He showed his hand, and he said, "Give me money, or I sink you." And so one day there was a king, a local king, because it's in the Middle Ages. And this king, he was fed up with this giant. And one day he said, the giant said, "Give me your money." And he said, "No, I don't give you money." And he cut the hand of the giant and he threw it. And it was like Antwerpen. Werpen is throwing in Dutch. That's where the name comes from. So the legend of Antwerpen, the city has a hand as a logo also, or symbol, but it's a middle-aged type of hand. But it's like this, it's up. We turned it around because it's an inviting hand. It's reaching to you. It's the whole philosophy. The watch is close to you. It's part of you. So the hand is also like that. It's something reaching out to you. That's why we have a hand as a logo.
Mogę jeszcze jedno pytanko? Pytanie moje brzmi, jeżeli chodzi o takie czysto użytkowe, czy ten olej się w jakiś czas się wymienia się okresowo, czy nie?
So the question is, yeah, you understand the question, of course. Sorry. So should we change the oil? Well, not fast, not very often. The reason is that the oil we use is the same oil that is used in marine compasses. Marine compasses are designed, you cannot open them. Once they're closed, you cannot open them anymore, you break them. They usually go for at least 25 years. So the oil inside is ultraviolet free or insensitive, is heat very insensitive to heat differences. You can go with your compass on your ship that is outside. You can go to the North Pole and you can go to the Caribbean. It will still work perfectly. A compass, by the way, also has a bellows system. Big one, but it also has a bellows system to compensate for the oil volume changes. That's why the compasses good compasses, even after 25 years, they don't have a bubble. So we don't need to really change the oil very often. At least we never had to do it, but okay, we are there since 2010.
Any limitation to use this watch according to temperature on the wall?
All right, you can ask the question.
It is any limitation of using this watch in the weather,
Yeah.
The cold or the hot?
Yeah, that's a good question that many people ask us. Every time when there is an innovation, people try to push the innovation to the extreme and see, but if I go in a fire and running around in a fire with my watch, what will happen? Well, any watch will stop. I can guarantee it. Of course, we have tested this. So that's why we have 7 bellows, because altogether, you have to know, I didn't tell you all the details, but a type 3 and a type 5 are assembled in oil. So the watchmakers, they don't have a table like all the watchmakers in the world. Our watchmakers, they have a kind of aquarium where they work in. An aquarium with oil inside. They do that because that's the only guarantee to be 100% sure that there is no bubble in the mechanism. If you see there are 200 components in there, there can be a little bubble that's trapped somewhere that you didn't see it. If you close them without seeing it, or you fill them without seeing it. So the watches are filled in the oil, then they're closed, except one valve. They go in a freezer for the night. They go to -12 degrees centigrade. And in the morning, they're closed. So they're closed at -10. That's about the average temperature when we close the watch. So they're sealed, finished at -10 degrees Celsius. And then, of course, you would take them out of the oil, we clean them, and we start assembling the rest, so the back of the watch with the movement and everything. So that means that from -10 degrees, the bellows are at -10 degrees, they are neutral. They do nothing. They are free because they have no pressure. They don't exert any pressure on the oil. And then the question is, until where can I go? Yeah, that was your question. We have tested our watches in ovens until 90 degrees. And I can assure you, just do the test, but maybe your watch will be broken. Just not my responsibility, but put it in your oven at 50 degrees, not 90, 50. Put it on your wrist, and you count the seconds you can hold it. It's very short. It's really not nice. So probably nobody will wear it, but you can forget it. So we tested until 90 degrees. It was still okay. We didn't go above that. We thought it's more than enough, 90 degrees. But what happens if you go beneath -10? Because the bellows don't do anything anymore. They stop helping the compensation, so the oil will continue contracting, but the bellows will not compensate anymore. What happens then is that you create a vacuum in the watch, because the gas or the air or the volume has to come from somewhere. And so what happens is that the oil boils like water. If you can boil water at 1 degree. If you take away the pressure, it starts boiling by itself. It's the same for the oil. So you will have a gasification of the oil. Probably you won't even see it because it will happen inside the dial. But sometimes you can see it when it happens between the sapphire glass and the top of the dial. And then you have a small bubble. But that bubble can become larger if you go at -50, but again, you will not wear it.
Let's imagine, sorry for interrupting, sometimes in Poland it's -20.
-20, good. So you're naked, running around, You are not holding it against your skin because your skin will heat it up. Your skin is at 27. So you have it outside your jacket. You hold it like this and you walk around for an hour in the minus 20 degrees. Yeah. So at that moment, there is a small bubble of gas, of oil gas in the watch. From the moment you go above minus 10, the bellows start exerting pressure again. And so this gas will become fluid. So after 2 to 4 hours, depends a bit on the size of the bubble will be gone again.
There's no problem with viscosity of oil.
Yeah, so what I said is that the oil we choose has been developed for that. So it's a product from Exxon. They developed especially for compasses, old compasses, because today compasses, they have solvents, because solvents are a lot more fluid, like water, because the compass will react faster than old compasses. They really go very slow. That's because of the oil. Yeah, to stabilize it. Yeah. Good question.
This is only theoretical problem.
It's a theoretical problem, but
yeah.
people like to know. Very positive. He's working in Siberia or something.
I make for my friend watch like this.
Okay.
Full filled with water.
Oh, wow. Cool. Good luck. All right. Any other questions?
Feel free if you have some more questions. You are still here till approximately
1 hour.
1 hour. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Dziękujemy bardzo.
maintain heading 350, cleared for takeoff. Runway 0.